One of the best parts about being an aircraft broker is there's no license or certification to be an aircraft broker. One of the worst parts about being an aircraft broker is there's no license or certification to be an aircraft broker. My name is Tom Lelio. I live over in Sarasota, Florida. I've been a private aircraft broker for about 4 years now. I worked for a company for 3 years. When I first started out, I had no aviation background whatsoever. I was a youth pastor for 10 years. And then I transitioned to be a music school manager for a couple of years. And then just decided one day I needed to make more money. I was going to go into sales. I didn't want to sell widgets, 1,000 widgets for $1,000. I wanted to sell something bigger, but I had no idea what. I didn't even know you could sell private jets. I went to Indeed.com, found an ad for an executive sales agent, and turned out that they were based at the airport and they were literally selling private jets. So I started out as a jet broker with no experience at all. And my first year, they told me the goal was to make 6 figures. I laughed. I didn't think that was ever going to be possible. Went ahead and ended up having 20 transactions that first year. My commission was roughly $5,000 per deal, AKA $100,000 in my first year with no aviation background. I continued that trend for the next 2 years, selling a total of almost 75 jets over the last 3 years. And then decided to open up my own brokerage. My brokerage is based in Sarasota, Florida, but we are a cloud-based brokerage. So I have brokers working with me on my team from Miami, Colorado, Pennsylvania, all over the country doing this. And what I found when I opened my own brokerage is that a lot of people were asking me, how do you become a jet broker? I just started my own brokerage so I could sell jets on my own. And then people started asking me, well, how do you do this? That's where I started educating people, how to become a jet broker, because it's something that if you Google it, there's not a lot out there. So that's a little bit about my background. And
do you find it difficult to sell jets and stuff you're not certified for to fly?
No.
How do you get around that with obviously they're wanting to go out and stuff?
Yep. So I lean on a lot of people that I've met. So I find pilots that I trust, mechanics that I trust, lenders that I trust, insurance people that I trust.
Just have a negotiated kind of fee to have them go out?
Oh yeah, so like for test flights and stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we do a pre-buy and we hire a pilot to fly a test flight, and the buyer pays the pilot directly. Yeah. But after about 2 years, I got people kept saying, "Hey, you sound like you really know what you're talking about. You must be a pilot." I was like, "No." After 2 years,
you're not a pilot at all?
I did. After 2 years, I got my pilot's license. But for 2.5 years, I wasn't a pilot.
Wow.
And still was selling the jets. What I found was, and this is what I want to teach you guys. Yeah, game on. Okay, so this is how you do it when you're a youth pastor and have no aviation background. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to figure out how aviation works. And if it's okay with you guys, I'd like to go through the material as quickly as possible. Probably take me about 15, 20 minutes. And then take questions. Okay, how aviation works. So we talk about who buys a jet. These can be owner up.
Other aircraft as well, right?
Yes. I'm so sorry. Yes. This is any aircraft. It could be turboprops. It can be pistons. The only thing that's really going to be different is at one point I'm going to talk about the database that I use for owner information, and it's not available. They don't have it for pistons. That's the only thing that's going to be different. So who buys? They can be owner operators. They can be businesses themselves, and we're talking about like executives. They can be charter companies. This includes medicine or travel, like helicopter tours, and investors. These are individuals that want to buy an aircraft so that they can lease it back to a charter company and try to make money off of it, or at least offset their costs. Okay.
Like local, state, federal, government.
As in other people who buy it? Yeah, absolutely. Government entities. Yep. I don't really deal much with them, but yes, absolutely. There are definitely some. So these are who are buying. Why do they buy them? A lot of you probably understand, but the reason I pointed out is because sometimes we forget about it and then we forget who we're talking to. So these are people who want time savings. They want tax benefits. You're probably aware that there was the accelerated depreciation of 100% 2 years ago. Dropped down to 80 last year, now we're at 60%. So if I buy a private jet, I can write off 60% accelerated depreciation against my tax bill. So tax benefits, use it as a business tool. Some people want a jet for safety and security. Especially during COVID, once things started to open up, they're like, I don't want to go to an airline where I have to worry about who else is on the plane in terms of health. Maybe they're flying to remote locations. There's more, as you guys know, there's more private private airports than there are commercial airports, so you can fly in closer to where you're trying to go. And some just like to do it for hobby or leisure, especially if you're looking at general aviation. So this is who buys. Let's talk about who sells. First will be for sale by owner. A lot of your general aviation is going to be for sale by owner. We've got pilots, we've got mechanics, we've got management companies, we've got charter companies. Let's see, there's one more before brokers. Oh yeah, vice presidents. That's the guy who buys the jet and he wants to sell it, and all of a sudden he's like, okay, Mr. Smith, go sell my jet, and it's just the VP of the company and has no idea what he's doing. So all these people can sell the private jet. The problem with it, and the reason why there's a spot for brokers here, is that this is what we do. 24/7, we answer the phone. We're not flying somewhere. I've had buyers tell me that they called a controller ad, got the pilot, talked to him a little bit, and then finally the pilot said, listen, I got to get back to you in like a week or two, like I'm flying. He's like, I'm trying to give you money and make an offer on this aircraft, and you don't have the time for me. So, pilots, mechanics, management companies, charter companies don't want to sell a jet. Maybe they're upgrading, but if they're not upgrading, now all of a sudden they're going to lose a stream of income, almost like a conflict of interest. And VPs may or may not know what they're doing. So that's where we come in. That's where an aircraft broker comes in. It's really a job of herding cats. You become a single point of contact for the deal. You're talking to the bank, you're talking to escrow, to the pilot, to the maintenance company, to the owner. You're getting all this stuff in and you're just pushing the deal across the line. That's basically what we do. So who buys, who sells, now why? Why are they selling? And this is going to tap into when you're reaching out to people, this is what you're looking for. Has there been a change in the mission? Maybe they don't need to go so far, so they want to downgrade. Maybe they need to go further, so they want to upgrade. Maybe they need to go faster, so they upgrade. Change the mission. This could be they bought an upgrade. They already bought the plane, so now they need to get rid of the other one. It could be liquidating. Liquidation, the divorce. Got one of those right now. A death in the family. Dad owned the plane and loved it. Now the kids aren't going to use it, so they're liquidating the asset. You called them at the right time. Use, they don't use it enough. Fixed costs. So you've got two costs when you own an aircraft. You got your direct operating cost. That's what goes out the tailpipe, basically, and you got your fixed costs that you have to pay whether you fly or not, or you don't fly. Your pilot training, your insurance, your hangar. So at some point, if you're not using enough, you're ready to sell. And that all goes into cost too much. They bought it. It was $1 million jet. It was a $500,000 aircraft. It was a $150,000 172. They scraped all the money together, and now it costs too much. Sarasota Airport right now is $500 a month for a tie down. Fun fact. For a tie down. Clearly, they don't want GA there. Well, let me be clear. Atlantic, I think, is 180. Hawthorne/Dolphin is 500. Right? Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Or I land on the airport.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, how aviation works. Okay, so here's how we market a jet or an aircraft. And so this part is like, how do you sell an aircraft? So what I want you to keep in mind is you can start doing this today. You can start being aware of these things so that when you see a deal, you just kind of put the deal together. All you're doing is putting it together. You can become like a professional jet broker and work in a brokerage or whatever. But if you understand how these deals kind of come together, which is what I'm going to talk about, if you see an opportunity, you can step into there and say, hey, I can help put this deal together. Yes?
I sold 2 planes without being a broker, so my question while I was here is, how do you become a broker?
Well, I think if people sell their plane on their own, or you sell it for somebody else, you are in essence being a broker. What I'm talking about when I say become a broker is someone who wants to do it professionally full time. Somebody who wants to look at the tools and the framework of, I'm doing cold calls every single day, to talk to owners. Hey, do you want to list your jet? And then taking them down that pathway of, okay, we're going to list it, we're going to sell it, we're going to, So that's what I mean by becoming a broker, is basically doing what you did full time. And this is to your point. This is how deals get done. You got word of mouth. So if you're in the right place, right time, all you need to do is bring a buyer together and a seller together. That's all you need to do. You can use an MLS kind of a system. So I use JetNet. You could also use Amstat.
You said MLS.
I'm sorry?
What's MLS?
Oh, that's a real estate database. So I'm using an analogy.
So I'm not familiar with that. So it's
Multiple listing system. Is it system? Yeah. Okay. So I'm using that as an analogy. So this is basically what these are is a database of owners.
Amstat.
Yep. So you pay, as a broker, the basic package is roughly, let's say, $600 a month. They vet you as a broker, so you're not just Bob Smith, okay? And you pay a subscription, and now you have access to whatever the public information that was released at the time of the sale for the contact information for the owner. Sometimes you just get you get the pilot. Sometimes you get the manager. Sometimes you get the guy's cell phone number. Okay.
You said they vet you. If there's not a formal certification, training, what have you, of that, what is the vetting?
I don't know. You have to ask JetNet and Amstat. The reason I was able to walk in, at least from my perspective, was I worked with a company for 3 years that had JetNet. So I just called the guy that I was talking to, and hey, I'm going to do my own thing. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, do you have a strong preference, JetNet versus Amstat?
I think Amstat looks prettier, but the contact information when I was comparing them when I first started out, the contact information was better on JetNet. That was just me. I put two birds next to each other, and one had a cell phone number and one didn't. And I was like, okay, I'm going with that one. But Amstat had a little bit nice. It looked nicer, but everything I need is here on JetNet. And if you're interested in these, let me know. I'll tell you who to contact there, their email address. So this is also something that brokers all have. So if I'm selling your plane, I tell JetNet, hey, I'm selling this plane. JetNet puts it out there. It may not be on controller yet. So this is how we market the aircraft. It's the listings for brokers. So there might be planes on JetNet that are not on controller. Obviously, you can use controller, trade a plane, flying, AvBuyer, Global Air. Who else do I want to do business with one day? All of those sites are listing sites. Everyone's trying to be the next controller. Controller's roughly $400 a month for a jet listing. General aircraft is cheaper, and I think if you're the pilot, it's much better. I don't know off the top of my head though, for listing on controller. And then of course social media. This is your bread and butter, especially if you're just kind of dabbling. Facebook groups, citation owners, citation pilots, 172 Marketplace, Piper Aircraft for Sale. There's all these Facebook groups where you see people talking about aircraft, talking about maybe bringing one to market. You find an opportunity, you find somebody who wants to buy, somebody who wants to sell, you put them together, now you're a broker. Reddit's another good one. There's some good threads in Reddit. And Facebook's been probably the best one. Okay, so we know who buys, who sells, why they buy, why they sell. We're still in the topic of how aviation works. The sales cycle is really simple. This is the methodology that I teach. There's other ways to make money and to do this. Get a listing, sell a listing, right? So getting a listing, number one, you got to learn the market. You got to understand what is the average airframe time of a 172, how much does it cost to overhaul the engine, what are the common avionics, how many are on the marketplace, what's the general price point. Learn the market. Number two, make phone calls, get out there and contact people. Number three, present an offer to them to list the aircraft. Hi, my name is Tom. I'm with Jet Life Aero. This is my proposal to list it for you. Here's my commission, here's my terms. Then we get the listing agreement signed. Step 2 is sell the listing. Now I got to market the aircraft. I got to prepare a spec sheet. I have to negotiate and vet the buyers. I have to help negotiate the deal. I have to help coordinate the pre-buy. And then finally, I have to help with the delivery. And all of that has a lot of stuff that goes into it, and we'll get into that in a minute. But this is probably one of the reasons you guys came, is answering the question, how brokers get paid. So for me, I deal primarily in sub $2 million aircraft. We're working on a PC-12 deal right now, so it's not just jets, and that's $3 million plus. My typical commission is 4 to 6% of the sales price. If you're working with a brokerage, you're probably splitting that. It could be a 40-60 split where you get 40, they get 60, or whatever it might be. That's what it was when I was working there. And my typical listing agreement is exclusive for 120 days, and we handle everything. We handle all the marketing, we handle all the photos, we do everything. I primarily, when I got started, I primarily focused on being a seller agent. You find somebody who wants to sell, you represent them, you bring it to market, you go find a buyer, you get paid. Next step, the other way to get paid would be a buyer agent. Find somebody who wants to buy, hey, if I bring you an airplane, will you pay me a commission? Same thing, so for this, I'll do 4 to 6%, and it's negotiable, sometimes to do a fixed rate. For this, I'll do, $25K for 500K or less. That's 500K or less, right? I always forget, okay. Or is it the other way?
The other way around.
It's the other way? The big mouth eats the big number. Okay, there we go. I'll do 50K up to $1 million, 75K, you see a pattern, up to $2 million, and then 100K for a $3 million plus acquisition. And these are, truthfully, they're kind of arbitrary. I've made those commissions for buyers. I've successfully completed those transactions. But you guys probably just want to know, okay, what's a broker make, on a deal as a buyer's agent this round. And I will also adjust my commission if the buyer brings me a plane. So if he's like, hey Tom, I found this on controller, can you help me? Well, I'll take a break off, because this is assuming I'm going to call through every single citation in the world. So if he wants a citation 550, I think there's 400 plus units currently in operation, I will call all 400 of those people. That's why this is my commission, and I'm going to find him the right one. If he brings one to me and I don't have to go through all that, well then we can do it. We can do a break on the commission. This is probably where a lot of people will start, bird dogging it. Okay, you hang out on the forums, you start to talk to other brokers, you find a broker that's looking for something, and you bring it to them. You find it on a forum, hey, I'm looking for a Cherokee 6, and you go to the Piper Facebook group, and he just happened to miss it, and hey, I got a Cherokee 6 for you, can you cut me in on the deal? And brokers will pay bird dogs and commensurate with what you ask for. Some people ask for a few $1,000s, some people ask for a percentage. It's really what you want to make of it, but that's another way to get paid as a bird dog. Another way to get paid is inventory. If you have the funds, you buy the aircraft, you fix it up, you keep it on the market, you sell it, you make the margin. I'll call this a margin deal. A margin deal is where you find a buyer, you find a seller, neither one of them wants to pay you. It does happen. There's also other reasons to do it, but basically you get it under contract with a third-party entity, could be an investor of yours, let's just say for $500,000, and then you turn around and you sell it to the buyer for your commission, so $550, let's just say. As you can tell, because it's unregulated, you can do this in a really, really shady manner and take advantage of somebody, which we don't want to do, just to be clear. I find that most people have no problem with you making money as long as you're transparent about it. Hey Bob, you're paying $550 for this. I got it under contract at $550 and I'm keeping the difference. It's not a big deal. And then what you do is you do what's called a simultaneous transaction. So escrow is aware of both transactions happening at once, and when they close, they sell it from one party to this party, and then from this party to that party. It's a simultaneous transaction. Sometimes you might hear the term back to back. That's what they're referring to, is where someone's making money in the middle. Okay?
So akin to wholesaling real estate?
Yeah. You're getting it at a lower price and selling it at a higher price. You're flipping it, but you're not holding it. Here, you're holding it. You're fixing it up, or maybe you're just holding it for.
That one's the bottom one's a wholesale.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Well,
Okay, so what I would say, so next step is, okay, becoming a professional. So, okay, so becoming a professional, you got to make a few choices. GA versus business, and then over here there's also, I would call it, I guess, commercial. I do not sling 737s. I just happen to have one listed, but I do not deal with that at all. So, here we're at, GA with your pistons, some turboprops. You could argue Vision Jet, that sort of a thing. Business jets, we're getting into the lights, the mids, the heavies, and then commercials are the Boeing, so that's a ton. So you got to make a decision where you want to kind of specialize here. These are different worlds. Then we're going to go into, do you want your piston, turbos, and then your jets? And then you're going to go into light. This is skewed to jets, but pistons, you'd have the same, single, multi, that sort of a thing. But then we have lights versus mids versus heavy. And so you kind of have to narrow down. You don't want to just be like, hey, I'm an aircraft broker, because there's just so much as you narrow down. Like for me, I primarily specialize in business, jets, the light jet market. And then within that, now I get into my makes and models. So I'm just trying to take you down the path of like, here's how we do. Understanding. Any questions here? We're almost going to get to the leads in a moment. Okay, so here's how we understand the market. I'm going to erase this. So the next step, you've identified, okay, I want to sell aircraft. I want to do GA, I want to specialize in turboprops, I want to specialize in the PC-12s. Single engine turboprops, PC-12s. Screw the TBMs. PC-12 is my dream aircraft. Fly it myself, fits my 5 kids in the back, plus the 2 dogs. I think it's a great bird. I actually don't have $3 million yet. All right, so you pick, let's say, the PC-12s. How do you become knowledgeable about the PC-12 market so that you can feel confident, like, okay, I'm a knowledgeable, competent person? Again, remember, I came from a background of no aviation experience. I was a youth pastor for 10 years. My graduate degree is in systematic theology, and then I worked at a music school. So I had no aviation background. I identified I understood who buys, who sells, okay? And now they gave me a market. My market at the time was the Citations 560s, the Citation 5s. So how did I get to understand the market with no aviation background? Well, basically I had to go call, and I had to figure out a few pieces of data. I needed to understand the average year, average airframe total time, and the average price. And so this is you just making an Excel spreadsheet with your columns. So figure out what's the average year that's on the market, what's the average airframe of the planes on the market, what's the price. I guess before you did that, if you wanted to, you could go to Google. That's what I did, Wikipedia. Globalair.com is great. If you Google Citation 560 Global Air Specs. Whoops. That's a great term. Whatever market you want to go in, globalair.com is a great resource that just has, it spells it out for you. Here's how much it weighs, here's how many passengers it can take with full fuel, here's how far it can go, here's how fast it can go, here's what kind of engines are on it, here's a brief history where it came from. So if you have no experience, just Google make and model global air specs. It's a great resource. So let's understand, so then once you understand the basic bird, now let's go look at the market. What's the average year? What's the average airframe time? What's the average price? What are the common inspection items and cost? So for me in the Citation 560s, I found out phase 1 through 4 was the common inspection items. How did I know? When I went to controller, half the lead said fresh 1 through 4 inspection, fresh phase 5 inspection, recent 10,000 hour inspection, recent ELT, brand new ELT, new battery. Like I would just look at the descriptions on the ads and figure out, okay, what do people care about that the brokers are putting it in their ads? Same thing, avionics upgrades plus cost. So what are the common avionics? What are the common avionics upgrades? The Garmin 750s, the G600s, what does that cost? In the older models, what are some other upgrades that you might have? Like in the 1SPs, you can have an upgraded engine that becomes a Stallion. You can upgrade the fuel tanks, it becomes an Eagle. Put them both together, you get an Eagle 2. In the King Air world, you can put Black Hawk engines on some of the C90s. So what are the common upgrades to the avionics? And then last but not least, the buyer path. People who bought a Citation 5, what did they own before? And that, did I go through this? I'll just say it now, and maybe I'll repeat myself. This all, what I would recommend doing this is just go to controller and call the brokers. Ask them questions. And I have resources, all this stuff. There's resources like how to have that conversation. Like, why is he selling? What's he upgrading to? What did he have before? What did the seller have before this? Did he do any upgrades? How much did that cost? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Damage history.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So actually, let's talk about that because we're going to go into, can I erase this? Yeah. No. You're next. Because we're going to go into how to evaluate. So you understand who buys, who sells, why they buy, why they sell. You understand how aviation works. You understand how brokers get paid. You understand roughly, what they get paid. Now how do I pick a market? How do I understand a market? How do I evaluate an airplane? That's what we're going to talk about next. What's it worth? Valuations. Okay. Comes down to one big thing, and you guys probably already know it. It's all about the engines. So find out how much does the engine cost to overhaul. So understand what's the TBO, the time before overhaul, okay? So if we're looking at I think a Cherokee 6 is 2,000 hours. What's a 172, I forget. Anyone know?
Depends on the engine.
2,000.
Roughly 2,000, okay. So find out the TBO. On a JT15, it's 3,500. And the cost is, and find out the cost. In this regard, it's 350 to 500 just to overhaul it. So if you look at it and an engine only has 1,000 hours of life left on it, 1,000 hours is roughly $100 an hour. I mean, there's $100,000 of value in that engine. You got two of them, there's $200,000 of the engine. That's like super basic, and they're worth a little bit more than that, but that'll get you started. And then we look into avionics. What value does that bring? And VREF won't do too much. So if you spent 100 grand on it, I mean, VREF's going to kick that down to maybe 50K of value. Like you're not going to get a lot of value just because it has avionics, unless the market says otherwise. Last year, so when I first started, the 560s were selling for $800,000. 2 years ago, at the peak of the market, they were topping close over $2 million. So it really depends on the demand. I actually did an interview with Jason Zoberbram a few weeks ago. It's on the channel. He talks about it because they're coming out with version 3.0. So I think it's very accurate.
Is there a better source?
No, it's VREF or Aircraft Blue Book.
Can you describe VREF?
Oh, sorry, yes. So if you go to vref.com, it's a Kelly Blue Book, if you will, of aviation. So Aircraft Blue Book is actually the Kelly Blue Book. And then we have VREF. That this is, I mean, if a lender's doing a loan on it, they want to know the VREF. Show me the VREF, and we can tell you if we can loan on this or not. They have programs where you can buy it yourself and do the evaluation yourself, or if you just have a one-off, if you're buying a plane or someone's selling a plane, I think it's like $400, and they will have one of their guys go in and actually do a valuation, show you the whole market report. This stuff is also available via JetNet. It's baked into there. I still use VREF with JetNet, but yeah. Did you have a question?
Oh, wait.
Oh, okay. Cost of avionics, cost of maintenance, and yeah, the market averages. We talked about that. Whoops, that's year, price. So if I have a Citation 560, which I do, it's a 1993. If the market is an average airframe time of 8,000 hours, mine has 10. The year is a 1991, mine's a 93, it's better. Most of the market has basic avionics, maybe a 530 upgrade. Mine has a Textron AdViz system, plus dual 750s, plus nice interior, plus nice exterior. I know where the engines are at, I know the maintenance items, and the market average is $2 million. well, objectively speaking, with the upgrades and with the engine times, because my engine times are better than most of the market, I should be able to list my aircraft for over $2 million. That's what I do. That's what you would do, right? You take all that data and then you make a reasonable, expectation of this is what it would be. And again, the resources that we're using are controller, trade plane, any of the marketplaces, VREF, and JetNet or Amstat. Okay, we're at 10:44, so we're going to get the 5-minute. Okay, so here's what I have left. How to get a listing, how to prepare a listing, how to handle buyers, the steps of the deal, and then how to do sales calls. So is there anything specific within that or outside of that we want to hit? Yeah. Oh.
If you spend time talking about how you get into the business.
Yes.
That's something about that.
Oh, how you get into the business. Yeah. Okay. So first, let's talk about liens real quick, just because it was a question. So when you're doing a title search on the aircraft, you can have a full lien. What would I call that? Like a lien. That's, here's the bank. Let's say the guy has a note on it. Okay, the bank is saying, hey, we're owed money at this transaction. So that's a full lien. Escrow will require a lien release form to be filled out by the lien holder, and it's satisfied, and off we go. You can also have what's called a clouded title. This can be a situation where maybe somebody had a lien on the aircraft, they satisfied the lien on the aircraft, but instead of saying Jet Life Aero Incorporated on the lien release, it says Jet Life Aero LLC. Well, technically speaking, the only person who got by the paperwork, it was Jet Life Aero LLC that got released of the lien, but Jet Life Incorporated had to get released on it. So that's what we call a clouded title. The problem is if that lien happened and those parties are no longer in existence, if you're dealing with an old aircraft, well, you can never go back to the party. Let's say it was a shop. If that shop's closed, we can't get a hold of them. Now there's a cloud on the title. How do we get rid of it? The escrow company can't just wave a wand unless they have a paperwork. So you can still go through with the transaction if you get a lien release from both parties. Both parties can proceed with the transaction. They state that they have knowledge that there's a cloud on the title, and they just proceed anyway. And then you can clear it up later or however that works. Does that answer the question on liens? Cool. Okay. As far as logbooks are concerned, when it comes to logbooks, you want complete, continuous, original. Okay. You want original, complete, continuous logbooks. You want the original copies. You don't want scanned copies. You don't want a SESCOM remake of the aircraft. And when I say you don't want it, what I'm saying is know what you're getting into. This is going to impact the value of the aircraft. And when we say impact the value of the aircraft, all we really mean is it's going to limit your pool of buyers. I'm looking at a Cherokee 6 right now. It's missing logbooks from the 90s and from the 70s to the 90s. Me personally, I'm going to have my mechanic go look at it. I'm okay with that. I'll take a price concession for me and for somebody else, even though it's missing logbooks. That's just me.
How does the lender feel about that? Lender or the insurance feel about missing logs?
They haven't raised any concerns yet, but that's a great question. Yeah, it may impact the deal because of the lender and because of insurance.
It happened early in the life of an older airplane versus recently.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes a difference. So I want the original ones. I want complete logbooks. So from birth to now. And I want continuous. Because sometimes you'll go review logbooks and it's like, okay, 1974 is here and 2024 is here. And you're like, okay, they're complete. But if you go look into it, there's a patch, 2018 to 2022. And you're like, what happened? We just had this happen on a Mustang during COVID time. He didn't fly it much, didn't get much work done, and they were missing one entry, but they weren't continuous. They found it, but this is important. Also, translated logs is helpful because sometimes you'll get an aircraft from another country. We're importing. There's one now that we're looking at that was imported from Germany and Italy, and we can't read the logs. So that's an issue that we need to get through. Okay. Logbooks, liens, how to get into it. There's 2 ways to become a jet broker. 1, do it yourself. You can do it yourself pretty easily. I think we've got resources here. This is all free stuff here. Yes, there's a course in there that costs money, but aviation changed my life, and so I don't ever want to stand in front of somebody changing their life through aviation. So all the information you need to be a broker is free. Just like getting into shape. We all know how to get into shape, okay? Eat well, move more. That's it. So that's what I tell you here. This is eat well, move more, but as it applies to being a jet broker. If you want a personal trainer, that's where the course comes in. you can do it yourself. If you wanted to be full-time, let me give you a picture of what expenses are doing it yourself. So your JetNet is going to be $600 a month for a basic package. The way that it works is it depends on how often you want to be updated on what's for sale. And there's also some other features that when I first started my own brokerage, I started here, so you can get away with that. So $600 a month for JetNet, $400 a month for a controller, for a listing, for a jet listing. Again, it's cheaper for general aviation. Okay. If you want to be a part of a network, which I recommend, so you're not on your own, GLADA is a great network. Go to glada.aero, NBAA, business aviation. You could do, if you're doing this Pistons, EAA, AOPA, but just GLADA alone and NBAA are going to end up being roughly $3,500 for the year. So we're at like $7,000 here, right? 3,500. So we're already at 10 grand for the year. Controller ads. You're going to have to get documents. You can find some templates online that you're going to have to take time, energy, and effort. But when you work with a brokerage, you don't have to worry about that. I mean, that's just some basic stuff, and it doesn't cover your rent if you're doing an office. It doesn't cover travel going somewhere.
Dumb question. So GLADA is a professional association, or that's a brokerage house?
It's a professional organization. That's a professional association, yes. It's the Global Licensed Aircraft Dealer Association. And GLADA is not just for brokers. That's the nice part about it. It's mainly for brokers, but it also puts you in touch with people like at VREF, JSSI, Hertz, mechanics, lenders, insurance people. They're all within that organization. So you can do it yourself. Good part is you make all the money. Bad part is you don't have any coaching, mentoring. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you don't know. The second way is to join a brokerage. That's what I did. What I noticed is that right now brokers are not hiring brokers. They're hiring research people. So if you want to spend 40 hours a week making 50, 60K cold calling and just kind of getting information and learning the business, then that's one way to do it. So you start out as a researcher. Okay. Some brokers, so the brokers that I started at, we started out as brokers, and it was a sink or swim environment. Researcher is much more like a forgiving environment. My environment was, here's $500 a week until you make your first sale. If you don't make a first sale in 3 to 4 months, then you're out of here. So a lot of people just wash up. So and it's kind of like luck of the draw, like if you know somebody to get into a brokerage. Our guy Alex, who joined our program last year, on track to make 6 figures this year, 23-year-old kid, went to Ohio State, worked in finance for a year, and then found me on YouTube and went through our course, and now he's finding success there. He couldn't find any brokerages. He just Googled, he didn't know. Usually if you type in jet brokerage, a lot of charter brokers come up. So finding a place that actually, like he had no idea the biggest names, O'Gara Jets, Jetcraft, Global Air, Avsky, Jet Aviva. Like he didn't know any of these places, so he couldn't find anyone. So the hard part is just getting in. Then once you're in, you're stuck with their commission, their branding, their workplace. You usually have to move somewhere. There's some limitations here. But what if there was a better way? And that's where my Jet Life Aero brokerage comes in. It's like an EXP of realty. You're still your own broker. You just kind of work with us here. There's a commission split involved, and we coach you through the whole entire process. So, that's one of the reasons I left. I just, this wasn't, especially the commission part. I'm like, I was a top salesperson for the last 3 years. Can I get a better commission split? And they're like, no, you're a sales guy. I'm like, okay. So, I'll stop there. Happy to answer any other questions. Here's my contact information. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Yeah, quick question?
Liabilities. What sort of liabilities do you face?
O&M insurance.
What's that?
Do you have errors and emissions insurance?
Yep, errors and emissions. For the most part, because it would be a liability if I didn't deliver on a contract with a client to sell the aircraft somehow in that perspective. But as far as deals goes, we're not parties to the deals. I've gotten dragged into stuff, and so I just kind of have to fight that on my own. But I try to limit my liability as much as possible, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, 1 year, so this is the second year I've been at Son of Fun. 1 year I will get the presentation to work.
That was better with that
Brady?
response.
Oh, well, thank you.